Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your friend here, Razaz Retro, and I hope everyone is remaining retro. Today, we are doing a top 10 90s shows from the 90s that started in 1990 or latest 1999. In two cases, or one, they might have started late in 1989, but essentially, these are 90s shows. So, without any further ado, let's get right to it. So, in at number 10 is Due South. Now, Due South is not a show that I've actually ever watched. So how does it make my top 10? Well, it's very simple. It's a show that Sean loved, and he used to watch it with my sister and even my parents sometime. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, I never got into it. He always told me to watch it, and this is a series that I plan to watch because I've just heard good things about it, and it sounds pretty interesting. So, from what I understood, basically it's about a Canadian Mountie RCMP officer who goes down to Chicago. His father was murdered, and I think he's working with the cop there. And there's a lot of like interesting scenes, plot twists, lighthearted comedy as well. So despite never seeing it, it still makes my top 10 because I know it was a show that was special to Sean, and for that reason, it makes my number 10. And I do think genuinely, once I actually sit down and watch this, it is something that I will actually enjoy very much. In at number 9 is a Canadian classic which comes to us from the CBC. It started in 1991, The Red Green Show, which stars Red and his nephew Harold. It's like a show about handyman. Uh, they're part of like a lodge, Possum Lodge, and it's a bunch of guys that get together. And it's really funny because like they're really terrible handymen. Red, his secret is to always use duct tape. A lot of funny, moments in that show. Harold, the one with the glasses, he's like a nerdy type character, so he's pretty funny in the way he speaks and acts. And the show's very popular because of the two famous quotes that Red would always say in the show, which a lot of Canadians, I guess it stuck with them quite a bit. Number one was, if the women don't find you handsome, they better find you handy. And the other one being that keep your stick on the ice, which is a very typical Canadian slang or saying, especially for those that grew up with hockey. So yeah, a very popular show, a very funny show, and one that I enjoyed watching a lot with my brother Sean, and sometimes my father would hop in to catch some episodes with us. So before I get into number 8, I should have mentioned it from the start. For this video, or for the purposes of this video, I won't be including kids shows. It's going to be anything that's like PG-13 and above, or family oriented shows. But like in terms of like kids cartoons or cartoons for kids or kids shows, which I did enjoy a lot in the 90s, I won't be talking, or I won't be including them in this list. I might do something in the future. But anyways, in at number 8, Mr. Bean, the classic. Everybody loved Mr. Bean. Everybody that I knew, family oriented, very appropriate for the most part. Um, Great fun. I think the thing that was really cool about Mr. Bean is that a lot of people, especially a lot of immigrants, if they didn't speak much English or very little English or even no English, Mr. Bean was a show that anyone can enjoy because he never spoke or barely spoke. It was really just his actions and mannerisms and the things that he did that a global audience can understand. And this was one that I watched with my whole family, and we enjoyed it so much. And at number 7 is 1995's The Drew Carey Show. This was actually something I watched myself. It wasn't something that Sean or my sister would watch with me. Lots of love for this one. Lots of great memories. Lots of great laughs. My One of my favorite characters in the show was Mimi. She was just so colorful and animated, and it was pretty funny because she would always insult Drew, and Drew would insult her back. I also loved Drew in the show as well, and the show takes quite a bit of a turn because they're like enemies, and Mimi ends up marrying Drew's brother, which I thought was hilarious. Uh, it's a show that's not talked about a lot, in my opinion. Very underrated, and one I would definitely recommend for sure. In at number 6 is a classic Sister Sister from 1994. Now, funny enough, this was not an actual show we watched in the 90s itself. It was something we discovered around 2015 via Netflix. It was something I watched quite a bit with my sister during that time and also my missus. Um, Not something that Sean really watched, but regardless, a great show. Two sisters that are separated at birth, they bump into each other at a mall, and they find out that they have a twin, and they basically end up going to the same high school, and the story revolves around them and their sisterly bond. Our favorite character was the guy in the middle there, Roger, who basically is their neighbor, and he's always running after the twins. He has a crush on them, so it's quite funny. A good classic '90s family sitcom, which is unfortunate we discovered it in 2015 because I think if we watched this during the 90s itself, it would have been even more special. But regardless, better late than never, as they say. In at number 5 is the classic Seinfeld. Now, the show did come out in 1989, but it had 9 seasons, so it is a 90s show. Regardless, this was a show that me and Sean enjoyed quite a bit of. We had a lot of love for this one. It would always make us laugh. And from what I remember, whether it was me, Sean, or anybody else that I spoke with from my personal experience, personal life, nobody cared about Jerry Seinfeld. Everybody's favorite character was either George, Elaine, Kramer. In my case, it was actually Newman. Sean had a lot of love for George Costanza. But regardless, the show was fantastic. It was always a good time. The show about where people do nothing, but in my opinion, it's about adults who come together and have everyday problems, more or less. Now, I find that the problems that they show are how adults can be sometimes, where it could be something very small and they make it out to be something very big. So it's adulthood, but with some exaggeration. At least that's how I feel. Regardless, this one is indeed an all time classic and a must watch. So in at number 4 is 1989's Family Matters. Again, this is a 90s show, 9 seasons. 90% or 95% of the show was in the 90s. Anywho, this is a very, very special show, a show that Sean and my sister watched quite a lot. I'll be very honest with you, it wasn't one that I've watched too much of. But the reason why it's particularly special to me is when they would come home from school. I think it would come around 4:30 or 5. I can't remember the exact time, but regardless, and they would be very eager to watch this. And a lot of times I would be in the background. Either I would be, playing some Nintendo or playing with my toys, doing my homework, maybe not even doing anything at all. And in some cases, I would tune in as well. I don't have particular memories of myself with the show, with watching the show, if I'm going to be honest. But what I do remember is that it was a point in time where all three of us were together. Even if I was doing my own thing, it was just very special and nice to see my brother and my sister enjoying a great show. And Family Matters is a great show. It's one of those very heartfelt shows. That much I do remember. My favorite character in particular was Carl, which was the father. My sister and my brother, they enjoyed Steve. But every character in that show was great. But I think the thing that stood out, aside from the fact that, it's a beautiful memory of a very simple time, is that it was a very heartfelt show. And it's definitely one that I recommend. And it's one that I personally plan to watch properly once I do get the chance. In at number 3, everybody loves Raza. I mean, everybody loves Raymond. I do feel I'm a bit like Ray Romano myself sometime. Great family oriented show. Ray Romano, he stars. The show is basically a premise of his life, essentially, more or less. His family life, that is. Married, 3 kids, a brother that's single for the most part, that lives, that's often over all the time. He lives across the street with his parents. His parents live across the street, Frank and Marie, who are there every single day at Ray's house. So it shows the struggles, the dilemmas, the family politics, if you will, that occur um, when I guess you have all sorts of people involved, but they all do love each other and they all do mean well, more or less. My favorite character was Robert. My brother always enjoyed Frank, and my sister loved Raymond as well. My mom loved Maria, and my dad loved Frank. And I watched it with my wife as well, and she enjoyed it as well. It's a really really good show, um, really funny. Probably one of the funniest shows I've seen, and a lot of great episodes, a lot of heartfelt moments as well. But in terms of the humor, it is really top notch, and I think a lot of people can relate to either Raymond, to Robert, to Frank, to Marie, Deborah. Um, I feel like the characters in that show are very relatable, and I think that's what makes it so special. In at number two, a proper 90s classic, one of the greatest shows ever made, in my opinion, Fresh Prince of Bel Air. You best believe this show really defined 90s culture, 90s fashion, in particular in North America. Everybody wanted to be like Fresh Prince. Everybody wanted to dress like him, act like him, speak like him. Um, and the show, aside from the fact that it was, quite influential on 90s culture, the show itself was brilliant. Um, each character, had their charm. For me, my favorite character was Carlton. Alfonso Ribeiro, who plays Carlton, did a fantastic job in that role. I had a love for all of the characters, but he was the one that really stood out for me. For my brother, it was the butler, Jeffrey. My sister was a big fan of Will. Um, Everybody was really good in that show. Despite having lots of love for Carlton, a character that really stuck out for me was also Uncle Phil. Being like a father figure for Will, um, really caring about him and also his kids, and just trying to be a good and positive impact. One scene that will always stick with me is when Will gets hustled at a pool bar, and Uncle Phil steps up, and he doesn't go like with an aggressive tone or anything like that. He acts ignorant. He's like, "Okay, I'll play you guys back for his money," but he acts like he doesn't know how to play pool, that he has no experience playing pool. So they play him, they take his money, and then I think he says, "Okay, let's play again. Let's double it, triple it." Um, and then when the hustlers agree, then he shows them the real Uncle Phil, that he actually knows how to play pool, and he puts those thugs in their place and gets back Will's money. So there's a lot of like great scenes like that, which for me makes Uncle Phil uh, a very special character. But I've always just preferred Carlton just because he was so funny, and because of his dance moves. I always loved when he danced. Um, Again, another really funny show. A lot of heartfelt moments, and really a show that defined the 90s era, in my opinion. Something that me, my sister, and my brother always enjoyed watching. We even have the DVD sets at home, and it's a show that will stick with me for the rest of my life. And in at number one is The Simpsons. Now, this is no surprise. Anybody that knows me or my family will know The Simpsons is really a very, very special show for me, for Sean, and for my sister. My parents, although they didn't always watch or completely understand, would always mention, "Oh, these kids are always just watching Simpsons, Simpsons. They love Simpsons and candy, Simpsons and candy and Nintendo." But you best believe, like the Simpsons, when we would come home from school, it was on from Monday to Friday. It was the reruns on CBC. We would stop everything we were doing. I think it would come around 5 o'clock or 5:30, and we would just watch it. And even before that, it would be in French on TVA, I think it was, or TQS, and we would watch it in French as well. And then on Sundays, obviously, the new episodes would come on Fox, and we would watch those as well. And we knew, like literally from season 1 to 10, we knew almost every episode. We knew what the next line was, what the next scene was. But every single time we watched it, and even today, talking about the old Simpson episodes from season 1 to season 10, 11, it is always enjoyable. It is one of those shows that you can just always watch. You know what's going to happen next, but it doesn't get boring. It is so iconic. It really had a big influence on the 90s culture. It really had a big influence on pop culture. Uh, the characters, every single character from Springfield is memorable in his or her right. The Simpsons family as a whole are great. Homer was our favorite character for me, my brother, and my sister, but we had lots of love for some of those side characters, whether it was Professor Frank, Lionel Hutz, um, Duffman, Principal Skinner, Superintendent Charms. This is just to name a few. Obviously, we're not going to name everybody, but you get the point. Every single character had a special place in our heart. Every single character we resonated with, more or less. Every single character made us laugh. And sometimes, I won't say they made us cry, but they definitely made us feel something because The Simpsons is a very heartfelt show. And that's what I loved about the 90s as a whole, especially when it came to TV sitcoms. They were heartfelt, they were funny, they were charming, they were brilliant, but there was always a story. There was always something to tell the viewers, hey, just take a step back and remember this or remember that. Every single episode had more or less like a moral, and I think that was the thing that stood out the most for us. When it comes to The Simpsons, I could talk about this for 40 minutes, and obviously I won't. But the reason why it's my number one show is because, like I said, during a very beautiful period in our life, that was a time when we would stop whatever it is we were doing and we would sit down together to watch The Simpsons. And whether you're a fan of The Simpsons or not, anything that brings people together, whether it's family members, friends, whether it's a TV show, a video game, sports, arts, whatever the case is, anytime something brings people together, it is a beautiful thing. And we must never forget that. I hope you enjoyed my top 10. I do apologize for my voice. I've been having like a bit of a stuffy nose, so I know I don't sound the best, but I really wanted to get this video out when I had the chance. And if you have any comments, any stories you want to share, please feel free to do so. That being said, thank you so much. And no matter what happens in life, remember to always remain retro.